My name is Sonal Chandalia. I'm the Chief Nutritionist and Diabetes Educator at Dr. Chandalia's Diabetes Endocrine Nutrition Management and Research Center. So today we talk about medical nutrition therapy in diabetes and how to plan a good diet prescription which goes a long way for a person with diabetes. We firstly will try to understand food groups, how to take an effective diet recall, what is usually a standard diet format, and what are the behavioral modifications that may be required to go alongside hand in hand while planning a diet prescription. To understand food groups, we start with the food pyramid, where you can see that the base, which is the largest area, has the vegetables and the fruits. We also find that the next level is the cereals and the legumes and the pulses. Next comes the milk and milk products and the meats. And lastly, at the apex, you have the fats and the oils and the sugars. Now, coming to the first group, which is fruits and vegetables, we know that they are highly antioxidant. They provide the dietary fiber. They give you the micronutrients, which are important, but they also are rich in potassium. So the recommendation usually is to have the largest servings of fruits and vegetables. But yes, of course, you have to take into consideration that if it's green leafy vegetables and if it is a potassium restricted diet, then you would have to leach the vegetables. If there is hypertension, then yes, the fruits and vegetables work well because they're being rich in potassium. They counteract the sodium. So these are one of the benefits apart from being highly antioxidant as a group. The next group is cereals and cereal products, the pulses, dals and legumes, which give you the calories, the carbohydrate, which are mainly complex carbohydrate, and overall they're giving you the protein content, where we take into consideration that this is the vegetarian source of protein. So it's the quality of the protein as well as the quantity of the protein that we take into account. Now, the recommendation usually is to consume complex over simple carbohydrates because complex carbohydrates have a low GI. They go slowly, they release the sugar in the body and hence the metabolism can handle it. And also the combination of cereal and pulses. You find that in our country, we are blessed with having that cereal pulse combination, which enhances the protein quality of a meal and also has a low GI. So this works very well when incorporated in the diet. The processed and the refined foods, which lack dietary fiber or maybe high in sodium and then having a high GI, are the ones to be avoided. So overall, you'll see that simple and complex carbohydrates, these are the differences, and complex carbohydrates are a must to be incorporated in the cereal pulse group. So with the milk and milk product group, what we really want when we incorporate this into the diet is that because they're source of an animal source of protein, we want that they give us the protein, but we do not want the saturated fat. This is a high biological value protein, which should form about 50% of the total protein intake in the diet. But we must remember that we want it minus the saturated fat. So in recommendations, we would say that yes, we want it in a skim milk option or as a low fat option. When we are considering these products, we can therefore prefer skim paneer when we are including or cottage cheese. Also remember that our population has more than 60% being lactose intolerant. And therefore, when such situations arise, we can recommend curd, buttermilk, which are options to the milk, but are also easily digestible. So it solves the problem and yet gives them the required protein in both quality as well as quantity. The next protein-rich group is meat, poultry, egg, and its products. So in the meats, we want to recommend that we want lean meats, which may be the chicken breast or the leg or chicken without skin versus the organ meats or high-fat meats. So we consider eggs, which will be included in a high protein group. The biological value of the protein that you get from egg white is the highest biological value. And if a person is a lacto-ovo vegetarian, then this can be definitely included. We need to know that the egg white is the protein and the egg yellow is the cholesterol. And that is why we try to include the egg white mainly over the egg yolk in most of the foods are to be consumed. Once this is known, an individual can tweak their recipes accordingly. After that, we come to the next protein group, which is the fish and the seafood, which also falls alongside milk and milk products and egg products and poultry products. In fish and seafood, we need to remember that we'd like to recommend the oily fish because it is rich in omega-3. And also, preferably for a person with hypertension, we would like to include the freshwater fish over the marine water fish. And seafood can also be avoided for people who have hypertension and maybe having high cholesterol because the cholesterol is high in seafood even if the total fat is pretty low. So considering these, it can be incorporated accordingly in the total protein content when the diet is being planned. Now we come to the sugar, sweets and desserts and the fat, oils and nuts, which form the top apex of the pyramid. And in this, when we consider the sweets and we consider the desserts, those are to be in the least amount because we don't want that direct sugar. We don't want simple sugars. But at the other hand, the fats, oils and nuts, we need the kindly fat, the one which benefits the heart. So they have to be included in the diet, even though in small amounts. The fats and the oils are mainly of three types, but the most important for recommendation is the monounsaturated fats, whether you use them as cooking oil, where you normally have olive oil, you have olives, you have mustard, canola, groundnut, you have sesame seed, and you also have nuts which contain monounsaturated fats. So these are the ones which are heart friendly and should be included in the diet on a daily basis. We also therefore do recommend that there is always 1 teaspoon of saturated fat in the form of ghee or butter, and the remaining can be in the form of the cooking oil that is from the MUFA group. What we do need to know is that when the process of cooking should be, you have to avoid deep frying and prolonged heating because you're generating free radicals and you're making the particular oil more carcinogenic. Which leads us to understand that many of the traditional fats, when we are having the oil and we're using it as unrefined oil in the form of kachi ghani oil, then this can be used as a good cooking oil, and we try to avoid ones which are highly processed oils for cooking. Over the processed fats which we consume usually, where they can be highly refined oils or partially hydrogenated like vanaspati that is consumed. So those can be basically avoided because they generate more free radicals and they become more carcinogenic to the body. And we are looking here to incorporate more antioxidants in the diet. So it defeats the purpose. So the nuts is a unique group in the fat group, which will really give you the required MUFA component that is needed, but also the walnuts, which we cannot emphasize enough, which gives you omega-3, which is the richest source of omega-3, or even flax seeds. But the most consumed and most popular is that walnuts can be easily procured and consumed. And therefore, they provide the omega-3 in the diet, whether for a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian. And we incorporate this even in a diet for a person with diabetes and even in a person who maybe have diabetes and obesity or needs to lose weight. So overall, when you see the food groups, we know that they're giving us the macronutrients, the carbohydrate, protein, fat composition that we're looking into, and the micronutrients, which we needed to make it a high antioxidant diet. So what we're really looking is to plan a balanced diet which will incorporate all the food groups in the correct quantity and quality, which will contain both the animal and the plant sources, the nutritional requirements, as well as they will incorporate local, seasonal, sometimes traditional foods which are required and give the satiety and palatability. So the more prudent plan will usually include a 2+3 kind of equation, where 2 servings of fruits and 3 servings of vegetables are recommended. Now, when that happens, we must know that for a person with diabetes who is well controlled, you can advise 2 fruits a day. They could be from the group which is low in carbohydrate or the sugar. So that can be recommended, and 1 from the other group, depending on how it has to be fit into the plan. And 3 servings of vegetables a day, which would be recommended as usually as salads or in raw form. So once we understand that what is the particular type of diet that we need to give, which is a well-balanced diet, we also need to see the tools on how to get and elicit the best information from the particular individual so that we can make a very effective diet plan. That is where a diet recall comes in, where usually a 3-day weekday recall as well as a 1 day at least of the weekend is taken. The physical activity is taken into consideration, their food cravings, their binging, or what kind of, whether they crave for sweet or salty is taken into consideration, if there are any intolerances or allergies, if there are any food preferences, what are the kind of foods available, what are the kind of processed foods that they use where the labels have to be understood, what is their work schedule, what is the standard measure that they are usually consuming has to be also accurately recorded, and all the medications and any other underlying medical condition has to be taken into consideration in that recall. So when we basically try to make a diet recall, in that we are noting the meal, the timings, we are having the menu plan, exactly how the person or the individual composes it, and the early morning breakfast, through the day, the different meals, that major 3 meals, as well as there may be small snacks that the person may be consuming. Now, for a standard diet plan, the principles that are followed is that we usually try to stay as close to the individual's cultural preference and the diet that they're already consuming. Therefore, the diet plans are customized. They are highly individualized. For example, if you have a 1500 calorie diet, you will be able to add 500 calories to that diet, or you may be able to minus 500 calories depending on the person's body weight, their caloric requirement or intake that is needed as per their medical condition, and hence the diet can be tweaked accordingly. So the plus and minus 500 works very well from that particular standard diet that is planned. So when we have the 1200 plan or you have a 1500 plan, whether you do a plus 500 or a minus 500, what we really can see is that the standard diet plan works very well because it's customized and individual is able to follow it with a lot of ease. The follow-up is also with a lot of ease, as well as the modifications, because with some hand holding, they're able to even modify it themselves, and then they can get the guidance from the healthcare professional. Now we come to another component called behavioral modification. Now there are some areas that we also need to consider when planning the diet prescription of a person with diabetes, is that you need to take into consideration not only the inherent problems in a diet, but also what are the problems that may be existing around for that individual. So we need to educate them on some of the maneuvers of eating. That means what are their eating habits, how they really consume their food, where they find that they may be taking or binging at a time. So how to span out the meals into 3 meals a day and small snacks, how to increase the physical activity so that helps their glycemic control. So some of these things help with the diet prescription, and that the control lies with themselves and not outside, so they can modify the things accordingly. The positive efforts, there should be an appreciation, encourage the particular individual, and also able to cut out some of the things that are absolutely not desirable. But in this process, the self-esteem of the individual and the self-image of the individual should be kept very positive, because then it helps it then progress as well, and they really are able to adhere to the diet prescription. A very important component in behavioral modification is to look into their habits. Whether there is alcohol consumption, whether there is smoking or tobacco chewing, then there should be cessation of the smoking and tobacco chewing. So if alcohol is included in the diet, it is only to be considered as social drinking, and if it is medically allowed, and taking into consideration the glycemic control, because it tends to cause hypoglycemia, but hyperglycemia in the long run. And hence it may be sometimes only 2 small pegs of a particular drink, and not more than that, not cocktails, not anything which add a lot of sweetened beverages into the regular drink. But this all will depend on the control of the individual. Otherwise, we have to ask them to abstain from alcohol. So taking into account the food groups, the diet prescription, the behavioral modifications, all these components together make a successful medical nutrition prescription for a person with diabetes.